Welcome class back to Chapter 8 Functions of your Python Crash Course textbook. This is the second lecture video. We're going to cover the objectives: return values, making an argument optional, returning a dictionary, and using a function with a while loop. So a function doesn't always have to display its output directly. Instead, it could process some data and then return a value or a set of values called a return value. The return statement takes a value from inside our function and sends it back to the line that called the function. Now this allows you to move much of your program work into functions, therefore simplifying the body of the program. So we simply just add a return keyword within the function body itself, and then whatever information is returned will come back right down to the call. So when we do this, this is our function call here, get formatted name. It's sending along Jimmy to first name, Hendricks to last name, creates this concatenated type of variable called full name. Full name is first name with a space and then last name. And then full name is returned in title case. This return statement comes right back down to the call itself, and that information is going to be stored in a variable. So when you create a function call that has a return statement in it, you need to make sure that you have a variable, okay, that is going to grab that information and store it. And in this case, we'll just finish up with musician being printed out. So let's go ahead and run formatted name. Okay, and we have Jimi Hendrix being printed out, as you might have expected. Next, we'll look at making an argument optional. So in our example of get formatted name, we could have a middle name. And when it's a string our argument that is optional, we'll just say empty string. So let's go ahead and add this information in, and then we'll go ahead and add one more function call. So we'll go ahead and run this. Okay, and you'll notice that the output, even though I have John Hooker Lee here in my function call, that Lee isn't being outputted anywhere. We're still just getting first name and last name. So here we need to add in an if statement, and we need to say if there is a middle name, okay, we're going to do a print statement that's going to include the middle name, okay, or create full name to have that middle name in there. So we'll just add in middle name in here. And then if it doesn't have a middle name, then we're going to go ahead and just print out just the first and last name. Okay, so now when we run it, we got John Lee Hooker. Now, when we look at this code and how it is set up in the function definition, your optional parameters, just like your default parameter, okay, needs to be at the end. If I were to take this and place it here, okay, and be like that, first of all, I'm going to get an error. Okay, but what if I did this in my call itself? I put his middle name in the middle because that kind of makes sense. Okay, and I try to run it. Okay, so first of all, I get a syntax error: non-default argument follows default argument. Okay, so this is essentially a default argument that's optional. So if I set this back to the way I had it before, okay, and I run it, okay, notice now that the output is John Hooker Lee, because I didn't adjust this back. So this case right here, since it is optional and we're using positional, okay, because we're not putting any keywords in front of these arguments that we're sending to the function call, we need to make sure that we put the middle name here at the end. Now I could get around it, okay, by, labeling them. Okay, so if I put here is first name and then this one is middle name and this one is last name, then I'm not going to have to worry about the order. Next, we'll look at returning a dictionary. So remember, dictionaries have their keys and their values. They're noted by the curly brace. So here we're going to create a new example called person. And person is going to send back first name and last name, and we'll be working with the same kind of musician. So let's go ahead and look at person. Okay, so in this case, Jimmy will be in first name, Hendrix will be in last name. We're going to return person back to the function call and then print out musician. Okay, so notice down here in our output, okay, that we have, and let me scoot this up here, that we have our syntax of a dictionary with the first name, with the key of first and the key of last. Next, let's look at a numeric parameter, and with numeric we assign it the value of none. So with the string parameter, like we did with middle name, we assigned it an empty string. Here we're going to say age equal none. So jumping back to our person, let's go ahead and add in age equal none. Okay, and then add 27 here for Jimmy for age. And then we run it, we can see that we still don't have age in there, we still just have first and last. So when we add additional keys, okay, information that we're saying along with the call, we need to do an if statement, just like we did with middle name. Okay, so if age, now we're creating a new key within the person dictionary, say, and we're going to assign it what age happens to be. So I'm going to show you what person looks like here. So we will print person, and then you will see what it looks like after we add in the age. Okay, so we have the first time through, okay, without the age, okay, and then we'll have the key of age with the value of 27 added. We're going to wrap up this section with using a function with a while loop. So the only difference here is just adding the while loop in, and in the while we have a function call. So we'll call in get formatted name. So whatever the user enters in for their first name and their last name, okay, will be stored in first underscore name and last underscore name, and then we're returning a dictionary. So in this example here, you might notice that there might be an issue. So when we say while true, this creates an infinite loop. So we're going to go ahead and add some if statements into our code, and you can find these on page 141. Okay, so this is the code, and now I'm going to go ahead and add in those if statements. So first added in a print that tells them how to quit. So we say, please tell me your name, and then enter Q at any time to quit. We prompt them for their first name, we compare that to Q, and since we're using while true, we'll use the break statement, and then the same process here for their last name. So when we run it, we prompt them, okay, first name and last name, okay, and then it says, hello, Amy Helgeson, and then please tell me your name. So we're going through that loop again. Okay, Sam Smith, and then with first name, if I enter Q, then I'm going to exit out of my loop. Okay, so again, the only concept difference here is that just that we were doing a function call within the loop itself. So next we'll look at our second lab for this chapter, and it is 8-7. So with 8-7, we're going to write a function called makeAlbum that builds a dictionary. Okay, so builds a dictionary describing a music album. The function should take an artist's name and an album title. So we have two parameters within our function definition, and it should return a dictionary containing these two pieces of information. Use the function to make 3 dictionaries. Okay, so you want to make sure that you do the 3 dictionaries, so that's 3 function calls representing different albums. Print each return value to show that the dictionaries are storing the album information correctly. If you want to use a for statement to print out the information, absolutely you can do that, but it's not required. You can just print out the raw dictionary for those 3 function calls. Then it says to add on to it. Okay, so use none to add an optional parameter to make album that allows you to store the number of songs. Okay, maybe you call it tracks, or maybe you call it songs. If the calling line, so if the function call includes a value for the number of songs, add the value to the album's dictionary, and then make at least one new function call. So you're going to have a total of 4 function calls for this particular lab. Questions on this section, please reach out.